Welcome back to Oulton Park for the final time this weekend on the bank holiday Monday. We've been racing twice already in changeable conditions, wet on Saturday and then slick tyres and damp conditions this morning. Action-packed races saw Alex O'Grady take victory in round 7. And then this morning, championship leader Dan Ginchard took victory in round number 8. Round number 9 coming up next. It's set to be a good one with changeable conditions once again. But let's have a look back at round 8 of the championship with Lewis McGlade.
Highlights from the race, round 8 of the championship, with the race down into the first corner. It was Ginchard leading from pole position as he got onto the brakes and flicked it through the opening corner. The big struggle in the start of the race though was Isaac Phelps down the order a couple of spots as Leandro Juncos was working his way forward. Hill speed getting the car all fired up as he'd work his way through into third position with a big move down the inside of Ari Bansal. It wasn't too long before he was trying to make this move on Catulus. In the tricky low grip conditions, he was able to work his way over the nose of the elite car and was up into third position before Ari Bansal would fire his way around the outside and would drop it off the circuit, promoting the elite driver up into second. It was an unfortunate moment though for the number 44 of Mayor Dian Areen, who would be off the road causing a safety car, meaning that they'd have to get their tyres all fired up once again with just 5 and a bit minutes left to go. Big moment between the two elite cars saw Ari Bansal off the road for the second time basically at the Shell Oils hairpin as he'd drag his way back onto the circuit. There was another big off, that one for Jack Taylor, as he'd be off and would touch the barrier himself, basically retiring him from the race. There was Leandro Juncos then defending like his life depended on it for second position, keeping the number 51 of Alex Catulus at bay. Alex O'Grady was looking for the podium, and with this move he'd find it. Big one down the inside to the Old Hall corner of the first turn on the circuit. He'd be firing through and we'll be onto the podium with the two elite hill speed cars. It was Dan Ginchard up towards the line to take victory once again.
We have been treated to 2 excellent GB4 races this weekend so far, and we just saw round 8 from earlier on today. There's actually been a few amendments to the results from that. Unfortunately, Juncos, who finished second on the road, was disqualified from that race for an infringement behind the yellow flag. So that moves everyone behind second place up one position. Also, Megan Bruce has a grid penalty going into this race as well. My name is Piers Prior. I will be leading you up to the start of this final race this weekend here at Oulton Park, round 9 of the championship, and once again joined alongside me by former GB4 Championship contender and Graham Brunton Racing driver coach Max Maserati. Max, that was a very tricky race for the drivers on slick tyres in tricky conditions.
Yeah, it was. It rained halfway through there and you saw it, but speaking to the drivers, it didn't really affect the track too badly. So they were able, they already had heat in the tyre at that point, they were able to really get on with it, but it was a long safety car, so they really noticed it coming out the last corner. Like when I spoke to my drivers or Ginchard, on the race, they all said they had this big slide coming out the final corner, which you can kind of see when you watch it. But then once they got the heat back in again, they were able to just go. The bigger thing was actually the oil on the circuit from the race before, and we saw that a lot through Shell Oil, the Shell hairpin, that bank corner.
Ironically, Shell Oils.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Where they had the long oil strip down there, the guys who tried to take a wider line through there hit that oil part, and then that's when they were skating off the road. Yeah,
we saw a lot of minor mistakes being amplified by the tricky conditions out on circuit. One of the drivers who we saw benefit from, unfortunately, Juncos getting the penalty, was Alex Catulus. He finished on 4th place, just outside of the podium positions, a championship challenger. He would not have enjoyed seeing Dan Ginchard take the win in that one, but due to Juncos' disqualification, he was moved up into 3rd place. So we heard from him yesterday, but just a reminder that I caught up with him before that change happened. So Alex Catulus is next. Alex Catulus, 4th place in round 8. Tricky conditions out there, close to a podium. Sum up the race and your perspective on that.
I think I got an okay start, not the best, and made kind of misjudged going into Ireland where exactly Juncos was and how. Yeah, so I kind of let him pass there, which wasn't great. But it was tricky with the rain, and that was mainly the factor that was making it hard.
Of course, slick tyres in the wet conditions tricky. We've had mostly dry running this weekend up until, of course, we had the race. It looked like you guys in the elite cars, the car looked like it was snapping around a little bit. I mean, clearly it was hard to drive.
I think everyone was struggling in a similar way, but I'm not sure. I think some drivers did a better job.
It's still, P4 is a good result. Dan, your closest championship challenger, did take the win, but P4 not too much of a points deficit to him still. Are you thinking about the championship this early in the season, taking it race by race? What's your outlook?
Yeah, just race by race. The championship will sort itself out, if you do the right things in all the rounds. So, congrats to him, and yeah, working hard.
Race 3 coming up, reverse grid race. That always throws a cat amongst the pigeons. What's your thoughts of heading into that one?
I don't know yet because the weather still can't make his mind up, but yeah, no matter what, just try to go forward and keep the nose clean.
Would you prefer a wet race or a dry race, or another one of those mixed condition ones?
I don't mind too much, to be honest. Race is a race. So.
Race is a race, very well put. Alex Katoulis, thanks very much for chatting to us, and we'll see how you get on.
Okay. Thank you.
That was Alex Katoulis, as you could see, a bit visibly disappointed after not quite making it onto the podium. However, I think he'll be a bit more happy now. But he's got a race to concentrate on as the final GB4 race of the weekend is coming up very, very soon. Max, the rain, once again, it's almost like if you wanted it to rain, you could just put GB4 cars in an assembly area, because it started raining once again. Yeah. The track has just dried out. What would you be saying to your drivers now? I know you're working with the Graham Brunson Racing drivers.
I mean, we've spoken about it. Unfortunately, I mean, I think once in my entire career, which was a race you were in as well, when we before it was called GB3, British F3, yes. Where half the grid went slick, half the grid went wet, and it was drying circuit, so it went the other way around. And I haven't seen another time like that where there's been such a crossover, and we've just had 3 of them in in all the races this weekend. We've had that kind of thing where it's potentially a crossover of whether it's going to be slick, whether it's going to be wet, and that is terrifying.
What advice are you giving your drivers at this stage?
At this point, it's looking like it's still going to be dry. You can only make the call, as of looking out the window and what it's saying right now. Get heat in the tyre and go, because the guy who will probably win this race is the guy who's going to get the most amount of heat in his tyre quickly. So using that warm-up lap, really get the tyre in, get the best start you can. You can't plan a good start, because you can certainly prepare and practice, but you never know what's going to happen off the line. You might have a good one, a bad one, or a mediocre one. But once that off-the-line job is done, you've just got to get your head down and try and get forward as much as you can. If it suddenly rains, then fine grip.
Fine grip.
Fine grip.
Easier said than done.
It is.
Easier said than done.
Is,
but
yeah.
No, it's tricky to get temperature in the tyres. Max Maserati, you are helping the Graham Brunson Racing drivers this weekend in terms of things behind the scene. And one of the Graham Brunson Racing drivers had a good one in that last one was Callum Baxter. He finished 10th on the road, which I think means that he's now 9th after the penalties. He's going from 4th place on the grid in this one, so one to look out for. And I caught up with him after the race earlier on today. Callum, tricky conditions out in race 2 there, but a top 10 result. How are you feeling after that one?
Yeah, like you said, top 10 results, so can't complain too much about that. It's where I started. I think it was going really well before the safety car came out. I think I was up a couple positions. Unfortunately, after I was trying to be on the attack, but then I ended up dropping down back to 10th.
Yeah, tricky conditions out there with the slick tyres and it raining, but you did well to stay out of trouble. What do you reckon the difference was between, the top 10 where you were, bottom end of the top 10 and the difference to the front? Do you know where you could find a bit of extra time?
Yeah, I think it's just general pace, although I feel like my race pace has been a lot stronger, especially this weekend, but really every weekend compared to my 1 lap qualifying pace. So I think it's about just continuing to find time, each weekend and getting closer up there.
It must be great this year having two strong teammates alongside you. You've of course been in the championship a couple of seasons now. How is it working with those guys, Alex Berg and Mayor Donarine, and is it all pushing you all forward?
Yeah, we're all learning things from each other and we're having fun as well, so it's nice having 2 teammates.
Great to hear that you're having fun. Let's look ahead to race 3, the reverse grid race. What do you think that has in store for yourself?
I think hopefully my best race of the weekend. I think I'll be starting around 4th. So I just want to have a good start and aim for the podium, I think.
And the weather conditions changeable as always. What would you prefer?
Either one. Good with whatever.
Good with whatever. Callum, good result, top 10 in race 2, and we'll see you go from near the front of the grid in race 3.
Awesome, thank you.
Our highest seeded returning driver, Callum Baxter, 7th place in the championship last year, very experienced driver in other races as well as the GB4 Championship. Max, he's a pretty cool customer. What's his outlook ahead of this race?
Well, he's so chilled. He's like one of the most chilled drivers I think I've worked with. He's really good at just keeping his head, keeping calm, keeping collective, and you see that a lot in qualifying and races usually, with the way his lap times always just get quicker and quicker. He was really good actually when he was on dries in the wet, the race on Saturday. He drove really well, really calm, and I think he was 2nd quickest to Gunchard actually out of the slick class runners by 1/1000th of a second, just off of him. So if it was to rain and everyone is on slicks, then I have full confidence in him that he will be able to find the grip and do what he did before. Because of his good qualifying, he's at the sharp end here, and I really hope that he can bring home a good result. He's definitely got it in him. And you've got other contenders around him as well. This is going to be so tight. It's going to be a great reverse grid race.
It's going to be an entertaining one. I'll just run you through some of the drivers at the front of the field. So Luca Magnusson, our second place driver from round 7 on Saturday, he goes from pole. Luke Hilton second, Stefan Brasengiev third, Callum Bax, we've just spoken about, fourth, and then Leon Wilson in fifth. One of those drivers I just spoke to is on the front row of the grid in this one. Luke Hilton had brilliant pace at various points this year. The rub of the green has really not gone with him. Bad luck at various times. Had a good result in that last one. Fifth place after penalties, and I caught up with him after that race this morning as well. Luke, you've had a pretty up and down season so far. Pace has been really good, but I know that you're not happy with the way that some of the results have gone. A good result in race 2 this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, during pre-season testing, we were looking quite strong. I mean, we were top 3 basically every track we went to, so it was looking positive for the season. Had a few hiccups here and there around 1 and 2. This weekend I just kind of wanted to do it a bit differently. Just wherever I qualify, just make sure I go a bit forward and chip away from there. And yeah, race 2, it was really good. Obviously race 1 wasn't ideal. The slicks in the rain, it was really crazy to drive, but race 2, I just chipped away, put my car in the right positions, and just waited and was very patient with the moves I was doing. So yeah, I think that's what helped me a lot in this one.
Yeah, 6th place on the road in race 2, good result. It's good to get some points on the board. You spoke a little bit about your change of outlook and approach into this weekend. What sort of things are you changing?
I've just went in with a calmer mindset, trying to keep more headstrong, because we qualified P3 for Silverstone and ended up dropping back. A little bit of my fault because I just got a little bit messed up in the head. But in this one, I was like, do you know what? Wherever I can't finish, I'll finish. So I just wanted to get the work done and see if I can chip away even more.
Bit of a stoic approach into this weekend, and it's clearly working for you so far. We saw the tricky conditions in race 1, but race 2, good fighting. We saw a bit of that on the broadcast. Let's look ahead to race 3 now. Reverse grid, you're starting pretty much at the front of the field. That's got to be a good opportunity for a good result in that one.
Yeah, hopefully I'm starting P2 because I qualified 11th sadly for race 1, so I should ideally be P2. If I can get the starts I've been having and get in front, I won't suffer with dirty air, and let's see if I can get the job done for the pole.
The weather's been changeable all weekend. We've seen that. Would you prefer a wet race, a dry race, or another one of those in the middle?
100% a wet race. I love the wet.
Amazing. Well, if it rains, we'll keep an eye on you, Luke. Congratulations on a good result in race 2, and we'll keep an eye on you from the front of the grid in race 3.
Thank you very much.
Luke Hilton hoping for a good result in this one. He wants to kick his season off properly. He's had great pace at various times, and critical to the result in this one, Max, is going to be tyre temperature. You mentioned it just a moment ago, but how do the drivers actually get those slick tyres up to temperature when it's so cold and damp as it is?
It's basically all about using your brake, using the brake temperature to actually soak the tyre in heat from the core, and that's what you need, not surface temp, especially with the Pirelli, where you see scrubbing. You don't want to scrub the tyre of the surface. It needs to be heat from the core. So pressing the brake while you're on the throttle, when you're weaving, loading up, using the brake to actually load the car. Don't just turn left and right on the straight, because that doesn't actually do anything. You have to use the brake.
Amazing. Well, we'll see the drivers using that technique, or the ones that have listened to Max anyway, to get the heat in the tyres. We're here at Oulton Park. It's a tricky circuit here at Oulton Park, as Max and I both know. Let's look at the circuit in a bit more detail with Lewis McGlade, and then I'll take you through an onboard lap with Dayton Coulthard.
The Oulton Park circuit plays host to the 3rd weekend of 2025. An iconic circuit, very narrow, very twisty indeed. That run through Old Hall at the first corner, then down the avenue into Dentons and Cascades, along Lakeside as we flick through the flat-out left-hander at Island Bend, onto the brakes into the banked corner of Shell Oils. Then they'll head their way through the Britain chicane before we rise up and over the crest at Hilltop, and then down into the Hislops chicane. It goes right and then left, extremely tight with the tyre bundles, and then through Knickerbrook and up the hill as they go past Water Tower, and then then up towards the Druids corner, a double apex right-hander before the last run down into Lodge corner, up the leap and onto the start-finish straight. One of the main features around here, of course, along with its narrowness, is the undulation. It's one of the primary features around this 2.7-mile circuit. Lots of lumps and bumps for the drivers to be dealing with as they wrestle the 17 corners of the Oulton Park circuit. 22 metres of elevation all the way around, that biggest rise as they come up Clay Hill.
Let's ride on board this Oulton Park circuit with Douglas Motorsport driver Dayton Coulthard. We go over the start-finish line completely flat out, pulling 5th gear towards the entry. Braking and turning into the entry of turn 1. It nips up at the apex, and watch out for track limits on the left on the exit. Now we head downhill towards Cascade. Stay to the right-hand side. Track dips away aggressively, brake at the bottom of the dip, get to the apex early and feed in the power. Again, watch out for track limits on the exit. Run any wheels over onto that green painted tarmac at turns 1 or 3, and your lap time will be deleted in quali, and you'll be expecting penalties in the race. Flat out through Island Corner, back to the left-hand side, braking hard for Shell Oils. Get in early to use the camber, heavily banked in here, and on the power early as well. Watch out, the track falls away quickly on the exit of the corner. Next up, Britain's technical corner. We jump over the curb on the left to keep the car left to open up the right onto the long straight down towards the Knickerbrook chicane. We stay right to go over the less high part of the hill, just maximising any speed we can over that hill. Braking and turning once again, trail braking into the apex, tricky chicanes through Knickerbrook, hit the curb on the first, stay left through the middle, and then we open up the final right-hander. Watch out for track limits again on the exit. Now a moment's breather as we head up Clay Hill. Keep it to the left, over to the right, and now we're going to head left under the trees to open up the double apex Druids. We hit the first apex, run to the middle of the circuit, and then just miss a second for the optimum line. Watch out, the car goes light on the exit. Final corner coming up now, big braking zone, downhill over the bumps into the final corner. An overtaking opportunity in the races. The track drops away on the exit and can drag you off the circuit. And that is a lap on board the Oulton Park circuit with Dayton Coulthard for Douglas Motorsport. You join us in the assembly area preparing for the final GB4 race of the weekend, and it's going to be another interesting one. On the grid here, it is spitting with rain. Most drivers are on slicks. However, we do have a mixed strategy once again, just like we did on Saturday for the first race this weekend, round 7. Most of the drivers at the front of the field on slick tyres, as you can see there, but some drivers towards the back have gambled on wets. The highest placed driver on wets that I can see is Enzo Hall, starting the number 7 blue car there, starting in where would he be, in 17th place. Of course, this is the reverse grid race, so a bonus point for every position gained from your starting position. Those drivers at the back have got more of an opportunity to gain big positions, but it is actually raining a bit harder once again. This has probably been the most stressful time. It's the most special race weekend for any of the race engineers. We're going to grab a quick word with Edu Pozo, race engineer. Come in this side, mate. Race engineer for Ava Dobson. I won't take too long because I know you've got things to do. Wets or slicks?
At the moment, I'll say slicks, but I do understand some people on the back risking it for wets because I think it's a good strategy. They have pretty much nothing to lose. But outside at the moment, slicks. But we'll see. You never know. It's the UK. In Spain, maybe I'll say slicks. But here in the UK, it's an absolute lottery. So we'll wait and see.
We'll wait and see. What's Ava's chances of a good result in this one?
Well, chances are depending on the weather, I think. I don't think it's mostly on us, it's mostly on the weather. So, again, as I said, wait and see.
We'll wait and see. We'll let you go back to and help Ava Dobson with her preparation for this race. That's engineer for Ava Dobson, Edu. He's actually a very proficient racer himself on the grid. We're heading down towards the back of the grid now. Enzo Horman, as I just mentioned, the highest placed driver on wet tyres. Bit of a gamble, I think, from him. He's got great pace this weekend. He's had a podium in the first race this weekend, had good pace in that race this morning or earlier on today. And then, as you can see, if you again pan a bit to the right as well, the drivers alongside him, Tom Ingram Hill, he's also on wets. Dayton Coulthard on wets. Then you've got Megan Bruce, who had that excellent 4th place in the number 9 car. Megan Bruce, she's on slicks actually, so she's breaking up the drivers at the back of the field. Unfortunately, she copped a penalty in that last race for an incident on circuit, so we'll be carrying over a grid penalty into the next round. And then we look further down the grid. We've got the car here of Josh McLean, who we spoke to earlier on this weekend. He had a good result in race number 1. He'll be looking to emulate in this one, going in slicks. Then further down the back of the field, we have Holly Mile, Caitlin McDaniel, the two Fox cars, they're both on wets, and then split by then is the driver nearly at the back of the field is Lily May Watkins for KMR Sports. She's on slicks. I'm going to head towards the front of the grid once again, just to keep an eye on things, just because as the rain continues to fall, we might see a last-minute change, a gamble from one of the drivers inside the top 10, potentially thinking about a change over to wet tyres. I've spoken to a couple of the team managers, and they're saying that they're expecting a potential cell of rain to come in. We caught up with Kevin Mills ahead of one of the races earlier on this weekend. I know they've got 3 separate weather apps that they're flicking between this weekend. Stefan Bostangiev here in the number 17 car, the Pace Performance. He is going off 3rd place on the grid. Now, he's been a very busy man this year so far. He was with us at the first round at Donington Park. He then joined the grid in GB3, back again for GB4, and I think also completing the season in GB3 as well. So he's a busy man at the moment. He'll be looking for a good result in this one. We head into here. We spoke about Callum Baxter with Max Maserati a moment ago, our highest placed returning driver from the championship last year. He'll be looking for a strong result for the Graham Brunton Racing team. Very cool customer, as Max said. He can use that chilled out attitude to maybe soak up some of the pressure from these tricky conditions. It is still raining as we speak right now. I'm going to go and grab a word with Luke Hilton's race number 1 mechanic, Steve. Steve, I'm going to grab a word with you again. I don't want to be a bad luck charm because when we spoke last time, Luke didn't have a good one, but he's turned things around this weekend. I feel like a different approach this weekend for him.
Yeah, he's had a good weekend. He's had a good first race today. He's different attitude and he's confident. He's confident, so I think he'll do all right. Pace
has never really been an issue, has it, really? He's been quick in testing, and now going from 2nd place, he's got a good opportunity.
Pace isn't there. Is there. He's just got to put it together.
Right, I better go, because we're going to swing round this way. It's time to go racing for the final time this weekend. Round 9 of the GB4 Championship in 2025 is coming up next.
Mixed conditions here at Oulton Park has caused quite a lot of chaos over this bank holiday weekend. Ready to go though for the final race here at Oulton Park, and of course the all-important reverse grid race. It's all up in the air weather-wise. We'll have to wait and see what tyres each driver goes on to maybe plant their place in history and take victory. We'll have to wait and see. Here's another look at the circuit then we'll be racing at for one final time and one final 18-minute run this round. Of course, the Old Hall corner, that first turn, has been so tricky when it comes to those race starts. We've got Hislop Switchshaw drama right at the end of the race with Ava Dobson and Megan Bruce. Run down into Lodge has had plenty of drama. Druids were actually avoided most of the drama in the previous race. It was down to race 1 of the weekend where we saw all of it down there. Of course, the 2.7 miles, 17 turns and 22 metres of elevation around here is what gives this circuit such an iconic place in British motorsports history. They're rolling then out of the pit lane. They'll be heading around the circuit before they'll put themselves in position and then begin their formation lap. And right now, things are very up in the air with how things are in this race. Take a look at the starting grid. Luca Magnussen, who had a podium in the opening round of the weekend. Luke Hilton will be starting from 2nd alongside that front row. He's had some great race pace throughout. Stefan Bostangiev, arguably maybe the favourite for this race, will start from 3rd position. Has had a 5th place and a 6th place so far this round. Callum Baxter will be starting alongside. Leon Wilson and Alex O'Grady will roll off of 6th position for the 3rd consecutive time this weekend. Has got a podium in 2nd place and a victory at the first race of the season, first race of the weekend rather. He could be something to watch. Isaac Phelps in 7th position with Leandro Juncos in 8th, fresh from a disqualification from the previous race, with Jack Taylor in 9th and Ari Bansal in 10th position for the Elite Motorsports team. Then we'll get Ari Bansal's teammate in Alex Catoulis starting from 11th, with Dan Ginchard, the championship leader, by 15 points. He'll be starting from 12th place. The rest of the field sees Alex Berg, someone who has had a victory this season, alongside Jason Pribble, who'll be starting from 14th position for the ADM team, obviously the sole driver for that team. Graham Brunton Racing's Mayor Dia Noreen, who had a retirement down on the Shell Oils hairpin, he'll be starting from 15th position alongside Ava Dobson in 16th. Enzo Holman in 17th, potentially still on the wet tyres, along with Thomas Ingram Hill in 18th position. Then it's 19th place for Dayton Coulthard and Megan Bruce starting from 20th. The final 2 rows of the grid will see Josh McLean, we'll see Holly Mile, also we believe on the wet tyres as well. And that final row that will have, of course, the Fox Motorsports, or KMR Sport rather, of Lily Watkins and Caitlin McDaniel for Fox Motorsports starting from 24th. Myself, Lewis McGlade, it's Piers Prior, and Lily Watkins is out of the car before the race has even started, much like we had with Josh McLean in the previous race. Drama before even the race started. As I said, it's myself, Lewis McGlade, it's Piers Prior alongside me. Piers Prior, a man who's won a race from a reverse grid around here.
I have. In well, actually, it was the BRDC British F3 Championship in 2020, which has now morphed into GB3. Once again, we've got the start delayed due to a car off on the formation lap, just showing quite how slippery the conditions are on these cold, slick tyres with damp conditions.
What advice would you be giving to any of these drivers down there? Obviously, difficult conditions, reverse grid race. We're expecting quite a lot of excitement in this race.
Excitement's a good way of putting that,
Yes.
Lewis. I would be saying keep it on the road.
Few cars coming into the pit lane. A lot of cars coming into the pit lane.
Clearly, those drivers deciding that they're on the wrong tyres. I can't see whether the drivers coming in are on slicks or on wets. I just saw a KMR Sport driver come in. That wasn't Lily Watkins because she is in the barrier. She looks like she's okay, which is the main thing, of course. We want to see everyone okay. It looked like a low-speed incident, thankfully, but she will not take part in this race. Race has been reduced to 16 minutes as well, just like we had the race earlier this morning. Potentially a lot of drivers making that decisive decision to go to the option tyre. I say the option tyre, the wet tyre. I think it will be drivers on slicks going for the wets, maybe after feeling how little grip there is out there.
Yeah, indeed. So you can see Thomas Ingram Hills is a little bit alone back there, along with Enzo Holman. Like you say, I think Megan Bruce was one of them who's coming to the pit lane. The 5 cars that we saw come in that started the race on the wets, we saw these down in the assembly area. You went through all of them. Those 5 drivers that were on the wets are on the wets. Now, this we'll have another formation lap, and I believe it will be a standing start again because the race hasn't technically started from this point. What happens for those drivers that have come into the pit lane? Do they all have to start from the pit lane, or what the deal is? That is something I'm sure for race control to decide, unless you know the ins and outs. You look slightly confused there.
Don't ask me, Lewis. If they've come in the pits and there's been a race, I don't know. All that we'll know is that it looks like the drivers who are at the back of the field who are on slicks have come in for wets, which says to me that it's actually very slippery out there. And that is confirmed by the fact that we've had one driver off at Lily Mae Watkins. It looked like it once again, Shell Oils was the place. We heard from Max Maserati in the pre-show that he's saying that there was oil on the circuit up at Shell Oils as well that hadn't maybe been soaked up. Here are all the drivers at pit exit, starting with the 50 of Jack Taylor, followed by Dan Ginchard.
Yeah, Dan Ginchard is the second car in short.
Championship leader.
Then we've got, I don't know which of the
Katulis.
elite it is yet, Katulis. Then it's Megan Bruce.
Then Alex Berg. Then Josh McLean.
Yeah.
And now we're looking at the front of the field. That would leave Stefan Bostengiev a clear run. Oh, no, actually, still got Luka Magnusson in front of him. Luka Magnusson's on pole positions. So this is Dayton Coulthard.
Look at how wet that car is as well, the top of the tub.
It must be raining out there. In fact, I can see it's still raining a little bit. Yeah, those drivers who are still on slicks are going to have a pretty tough time, I think. It's going to be a split race once again, as we had on Saturday, not yesterday, Saturday, because we saw a similar sort of situation, didn't we, with the track being genuinely halfway between. We heard from Max Maserati. In his years in the championship and mine, I can't count the number, or I can't think of many times, if any, that we've had such a split race where it could genuinely be slicks or wets. And we've had 3 of them this weekend, as we have drivers being reversed, pushed backwards. They might be going into the pits to take wet tyres. I don't even know if you're allowed to to do that. I mean, maybe you are, but I've never seen that before.
No, because they're wheeling quite a few cars back. What was the race? It was Hungary.
In Formula One?
In Formula One. And Lewis Hamilton was starting on the grid basically by himself.
Okay, Stefan Bosanjev has been turned around. I have never seen that before. A driver driving the wrong way down the grid.
But look, he's going to overtake Callum Baxter here. Thrilling racing. My goodness. This is
weird.
Also, it can confirm rain is definitely getting heavier out there, big time.
That'll be why these drivers on slick tyres are coming in. And as you can see, the pace performance umbrellas are up. There's Ellie Mae Watkins. Car will not be joining this race. Looks like minor damage at best. She is okay, which is, of course, the main thing. Looked like a fairly low-speed incident. So easy to lock up and run wide on cold, slick tyres on a damp track like this. It genuinely feels like you're driving on ice.
I don't want to be that guy, but I am going to be. We've got a group chat for us, like TV side of things, so we can understand what's going on. We can have a little bit of communication from around the paddock. In there, Richard Randall was saying about the cars that are starting on the wets. Afterwards, I posted, noted, thanks. Does look like there's a proper rain cloud incoming.
Okay.
I'm a meteorologist.
We've also had grid starters will start from there with a green flag, but then everyone on the grid has now come into the pit lane. So does that mean that we're going to reset? I think we're going to have to play this by ear because some drivers have stayed on the grid, including Caitlin McDaniel that we're looking at right now and Holly Mile, the two Fox drivers who went on wets initially. So basically, everyone still on the grid initially went for wets. Everyone who went for slicks, which is basically the first 2/3 of the grid, have come in the pits and changed. Dayton Coulthard was the highest placed. Enzo Hallman was the highest placed driver on wets in the assembly area, closely followed by Dayton Coulthard, his Douglas teammate. So potentially a master stroke by those two, because they may end up going from what is effectively pole and second.
Yeah, could you imagine if they, because they'll have to, I don't know what the ruling, again, like I said, we're going to have to play this by ear. And this is one of the times where I don't feel bad for race control because obviously they're professionals, they know what they're doing. But like this is almost an unprecedented scenario. There is Enzo Hallman, effectively the highest placed driver on the grid, who is starting far down the grid. He's in 17th position. If he has to start from back there, because if they'll do a formation lap. Will he have to start from there, or will he be pulled forward to pole, or?
This is all questions that will be answered in the fullness of time, Lewis. But all we know is, of the drivers who've come in the pit lane, it is Jack Taylor, who's actually had terrible luck this season and this weekend. It would be a good call and making his own luck to then be at the front of the remaining drivers. But look, it's just completely empty grid, Lewis. There's no one on the grid. This is genuinely like that Hungary Formula One race where Lewis Hamilton was the only driver on the grid. It's so strange looking down the grid, seeing no cars until a pretty much deer's leap, with Hallman starting all the way down in 17th, being the only driver. There you go, there's the shot.
Yeah.
No one on the grid.
We should have a grid there on the right-hand side, and there's no one on it. Also reminds me of anyone who does watch their MotoGP. Remember back, I think it might have been 2015, Argentina. And it was Jack Miller starting ahead. But they all started the other bikes behind him, rows behind him. So there's just him by himself. And then there's like
rows of bikes.
40 metres of nothing. And then just everyone else. Absolutely wild. We won't be getting that. But as to what is going to happen, I'm sure we'll be getting notes from race control soon. The only note that we have from it is obviously about the race duration being 16 minutes and about the start being delayed. Engineers have walked their way back into pit lane. I think we'll be moving soon.
Do you know what would be entertaining, Lewis, is if we take so long now and the rain subsides and the track dries out.
Oh, yeah.
So that everyone on wets is then on the wrong tyre. It looks like every single driver has now chosen to go with wets, as far as I can see. I mean, it'd be interesting if anyone at the back who was initially on wets then decides to go for slicks to try and go for the alternative strategy. Lots of deliberation in the pit lane with all of the teams. Kevin Mills running to his cars there to assist with things. These are your original grid starters who are on the wet tyres, the two Douglas cars, the two Fox cars, and one other. whom I can't remember. And it sounds like we are pulling away from the grid for our formation lap. So I imagine we're probably going to run through what would have been the grid, maybe, or maybe we won't because it's probably pointless.
I would agree with you. Completely pointless.
Yeah.
Absolutely no idea, because those in the pit lane I don't think are going to be allowed to roll round. So those that are running round, we can tell you that Enzo Holman is the highest place. You've then got Thomas Ingram Hill, then you've got Dayton Coulthard, and then we'll have the Fox driver of Holly Mile, and then Caitlin McDaniel.
Correct.
Those are the 5 cars that are presently driving around the circuit, and there is the 19 cars that at present will be starting from the pit lane. We are never short of excitement around the Oulton Park International Circuit in GB4.
This weekend has been quite short of exceptional in terms of both on-circuit racing and also circumstances. How many times, as I mentioned earlier on, how many times have we seen that many drivers, or a split grid of drivers in terms of tyres, and then we've seen it effectively twice this weekend, plus that wettish race we had this morning where most drivers are on slicks. There's certainly an advantage to all these drivers that we're looking at right now on circuit. They will have a chance to actually see the updated circuit conditions, because since the drivers last went round, it will have changed again. It may have rained heavier, it may have stopped raining, the wind is still pretty heavy. We're just waiting. We're just listening to the marshals directing everyone to stay out of the pit lane because we're going to go racing soon. But they'll also, these drivers on circuit will be able to heat their tyres and brakes, so at least for the first part of the race, they'll have the advantage of going from the grid and having that gap to the drivers in the pit lane and have heat in their tyres and brakes.
Enzo Holman right now has an unreal opportunity to win this race, because should have a relatively, obviously Dayton Coulthard, those 5 that are out there, but Holman especially, after that podium earlier on in the weekend, of course, in Bracewell, made the most of these conditions.
Absolutely, and he's been quick in pre-season testing, especially in wet conditions. Let's not count out either Ingram Hill or his teammate Dayton Coulthard right behind. They've been showing good pace at times this weekend as well. But yeah, it's going to be.
Where do they start from?
It's going to be an interesting one. Is he? Yeah, he's going from the same. So we're going from grid positions as of the qualifying order. So there's going to be an empty front of 2/3 of the grid, and then there's going to be a secondary section of the race from the pit lane, which is going to be mental on pit exit.
This is the craziest thing
that
I've seen. Look, this is going to be exciting. Let's just go with that. We've got 16 minutes onto the board. We'll get ready to go racing in very mixed conditions around here. Clear run up ahead for the 5 cars starting on the grid. Much better start from Thomas Ingram Hill then in the white and red Fortec car, who will take the lead down the hill. Probably the most overtakes ever done in GB4 history on the race down to the first corner. They head their way through, and then the rest of the field is released. 19 cars from pit lane now rolling as this craziness begins. That was a great start from Ingram Hill, but here comes Holman then, straight around the outside, battling for the race lead. Holman in the 7 could not do it. Thomas Ingram Hill is your race leader.
Yeah, the only person that this race is going to be difficult to work with than us is the race directors, as we now have a split grid. As Dayton Coulthard looks around the outside of Island Bend on his teammate, Dayton Coulthard in the 28 there, the second of the 2 blue cars. Your leader in this race still, Tom Ingram Hill, the number 8 white and red car for Fortec Motorsports. It's the first time he's led a race this year in GB4, so he'll be lapping this moment up, but he's under pressure once again from Holman, who's keeping right underneath the rear wing, and it looks like a mistake through the middle of the Britain chicane.
Yeah, Thomas Ingram Hill technically started from 18th place and led down into the first corner. I don't know if you can count that as that many overtakes, but still, I have no idea what's going to happen with the points, by the way. There's so much to decide from this one. Here comes the look to the outside, the number 7 of Holman trying to work his way through. Thomas Ingram Hill defending as much as he can. This is going to slow this group down. It's going to bring the rest of him back into it, and you can tell, looking at this circuit, it's not wet.
No, it's greasy, but it's certainly no spray whatsoever. Holman now on the left-hand side of circuit. That's going to be the outside going into Druids. We know there's been oil down there, but the GT race has cleared that up. Can he go all the way around the outside for the race win? What a move.
That's fantastic driving from Enzo Holman. They're still side by side, though. You've got Thomas Ingram Hill on the left in the number 8. You've got Enzo Holman on the right in the number 7. You've got Dayton Coulthard behind the pair of them in 3rd position, looking for his opportunity to join into the mix. Finally, the bright blue blue Douglas car takes over the race lead, and his teammate might be coming through as well. He looks to the inside as they get their way down into Old Hall, and what's the braking capacity like on that Douglas Motorsports car? It's fantastic as he dives his way through. Dayton Coulthard then into second, but it's not done yet.
No, now it is Ingram Hill looking on the outside going towards Cascades, but he thinks better of it. That's given Horman a bit of a buffer. Looks like he's got 7 or 8 tenths already at this stage. Lewis, I can see you looking a bit further down the order. What's race number 2 looking like?
Yeah, so Jack Taylor at the moment is the head of that. He's in 5th position at the moment, just ahead of Dan Ginchard. He's been able to pull his way clear. We head back to this and we'll try and figure our way through this as best we can. That was Hilton and Wilson switching over. They are far down the order. Isaac Phelps has been off the road. Phelps is in 21st position. Hilton has just got through into 17th. Try and keep up with all of this.
Yeah, so we're looking back at the front of the field now as we see the drivers all work their way to the Shellhorse hairpin. To the outside goes Hilton once again. Unfortunately, our driver that was supposed to go from the front, well, Luca Magnusson, looks like he's pretty much at the back of the field. This is now Catoulas and Bruce doing battle, as well as Berg and the 88 as well. That's the 88 of Caitlin McDaniel, well inside the action. She's going to be enjoying this. But Dan Ginchard has done well to get up in 6th place. He's our championship leader and well ahead of his championship rivals.
Yeah, and there is Caitlin McDaniel being pushed out of the way as Alex Berg comes through, drags through the 76 of McLean. Also, Jason Pribble was trying to come through. That is decently up the order. Obviously, Caitlin McDaniel is on the wet tyres. Is one of those drivers on the wet tyres that started, well, on the wet, one of the ones that started from the grid that's then being overtaken by those that started from the pit lane.
Yeah, here we go. Further battling as we continue side by side for everyone. That's Ginchard past McDaniel. Is that McDaniel? Or is that Holly Mile? Holly Mile just losing a place to our championship leader. That puts Ginchard up a place. He's now into 5th place. So he is 2nd in part 2 of the race.
Yeah.
What was the pit lane starters, I think? Or is he taking the lead of that group? No, it's still Jack Taylor, the number 50 right there. He is our leading driver who started from the pit lane. He had effectively pole position in the pit lane, and he's made the best use of that. Gained a good 3 or 4 seconds on Dan Ginchard, is already hunting down his teammate of Tom Ingram Hill. Fastest lap of the race from our leader, Enzo Horman, on that last one.
Yeah, he leads by 2 seconds over his teammate Dayton Coulthard. There's a fair way back as off the road goes Caitlin McDaniel. That'll be down at the 2nd corner as they work their way through Cascades. Here comes a move then, the 76. That is McLean.
Oh.
Off the road goes Jason Pribble. Is he able to keep this one on? That grey car of Jason Pribble back onto the road after being passed by Ari Bansal as well, dropping down the order like a stone, but great car control not to spin it round.
Yeah, we've seen over the years in all sorts of championships, you go off at Island Corner, often it's a one-way ticket to the barrier, but Jason Pribble using all of his skill and a little bit more, potentially a little bit of luck involved there to keep it on the road. He continues on after losing a couple of places. Fair play to him. Let's hope there's not too much grass in the radiator. The 77 of Junkos, who had 2nd place this morning on the road, up only to then get a penalty after the race for a yellow flag infringement. He makes his way past McLean, and Berg looks to make a way through. His Bansal's been tripped through the grass as well, and now Catoulas up the inside of Pribble. This is chaos.
Bansal's got absolutely no grip, and look at this. O'Grady in the grey, charcoal grey and blue car. That number 3 that's on the left-hand side of your shot at the moment is trying to get past all this. He's going side by side with Pribble, not teammates. He's got those 2 elites ahead of him. Pribble's going to the outside here in the 59, gets squeezed off by Catoulas in the 51 and could not get through, and that's going to cost Pribble a whole heap of positions. This is an absolute pack race around Oulton Park, one of the narrowest circuits not only in the country but in European motorsport, and they are making it look as wide as ever.
Maya Dionorine goes around the outside of Alex O'Grady to take that position. Now he's looking on the outside of both of the elite cars. This is a 6, 7, 8 car battle for, I don't even know what position, Lewis, somewhere in the teens, I think. Alex O'Grady now alongside Jason Pribble on the exit of turn 1. Pribble keeps that position. At the moment, it's Dionorine that's got the best pace in this group. He's up to the 2nd place at the head of this group, which is Fernando. Oh, Magnusson's off through the gravel. Can he keep it going?
There was a huge moment as well from Ari Bansal at the head of this. This is the battle for 12th place. You can see at the bottom of your screen. So Ari Bansal is in 12th place. 13th is the 44 here of Maya Dionorine. 14th position is Jason Pribble. 15th 15th is then Alex O'Grady, and that is the final points paying position. I've got no idea what's going to happen with the reverse grid points where you get a point for the positions gained. I have no idea what's going to happen with that. This is the battle for 4th, though, much higher up the field. This is Dan Ginchard trying to get past the number 50 of Jack Taylor, who's trying to rescue what has been a pretty dire weekend for him.
Yeah, Ginchard and Taylor were the two at the head of the field in the pit lane. Taylor took the secondary pole position in the pit lane, followed by Ginchard. Ginchard has closed the gap down about 2 seconds this lap and goes through on the entry of Druids. Ginchard using that experience. He's got a couple of years at Formula 4 level racing and using that experience on the wet tyres to get through. And it looks like that situation that we joked about ahead of the race, Lewis, where everyone goes to wets and the circuit dries out, is happening now. As you can see, all of these drivers scrabbling for grip as the wet tyres overheat on what is now a drying line.
Yeah, they've basically got no grip at all. Look at that slide in the background from Ari Bansal in the bright yellow Elite Motorsports car. He was all over the place. This is going to be a very difficult 8.5 minutes for the exact opposite reason that we were thinking it was going to be right at the start of the race. This is wild stuff. It's been a crazy weekend when the weather's come in and then left us. Cheshire, I mean, look, Oulton Park here in Cheshire is absolutely wild. Straight around the outside goes Hilton with a brilliant move there to get past Berg, and that was for 9th position.
Berg just doing well to allow the space for Hilton around the outside, and Hilton taking that place. Brilliant move. We cut towards the front of the field. That is now Ginchard past Ingram Hill for 3rd place. So he's now into the podium from the pit lane. As such is a crazy race that we've had so far. And I wouldn't write off Ginchard catching Coulthard and Hallman. Let's have a look at their lap times over the previous few laps. Let's have a look. Lewis, I'll let you talk through this move.
Yeah, so this is Ginchard then getting to the outside. Thomas Ingram Hill then is on the right-hand side of your screen. He's got the inside going into... Oh, my goodness. That was straight into the island bend. We said about brave moves around the outside. It wasn't quite maybe as close to what we've seen from GB3 from David Morales, we saw from John Bennett. Obviously, last year, that was crazy. This has been a bit more more predictable conditions, I guess, to a degree, but it's been absolutely wild.
Callum Baxter is on slick tyres. Callum Baxter's on slick tyres. Has he been in? No, is he on slick tyres? It looked like Callum Baxter's tyres was, yeah, he set the fastest lap of the race, Callum Baxter, by 4 seconds on that last lap, so we missed that at some point. Callum Baxter, was still 7 minutes of the race to go. He could be on for a good result here.
He's in 18th position at the moment, probably about 17th or maybe even 16th by now. We will keep our eye on that Graham Brunton racing car. Great spot, big slide there. Speaking of Graham Brunton racing, that was Mayor D and Areen with the big one. Here comes, look, so the 45 then on the foreground shot. He should have had a big lock-up, by the way. That is Callum Baxter on the slick tyres. He's gone straight around the outside of his teammate like he wasn't even standing. I know he's exceeded track limits, but he has got so much more grip as he flies past Alex Berg. He's inside the top 10, I think.
Yeah, and lapping, his last lap was a 1:39.6. Our leader, Hallman, who's 2 seconds faster than everyone else, did a 42.5. So Callum Baxter's about 5 seconds of that faster than everyone up to 2nd place.
Yeah, and with 6 minutes left to go, we should have about 5 laps left. There's your race leader who probably, well, I say probably, will have absolutely no idea. He knows he's leading by about 6 or so seconds. The team would have told him on the boards. He'll probably know like it's Coulthard behind him. He'll obviously have absolutely no idea that Baxter is flying, and maybe slightly unlikely, but there is potential he could be a threat, because do remember, Baxter's probably going to get faster as this race goes on. Everyone else is going to get slower.
Yeah, if you look at Ginchard's tyres, you can see the dark lines. That's the blocks, the tread of the wet tyres, just completely being torn off of the carcass of the tyre. And he's just struggling for grip. And this is Dan Ginchard, our championship leader. Oh, the 35 Phelps, he's also on slick tyres, but Phelps is a lap down. So that shows quite how much more pace the drivers have on slick tyres, but this is not for position.
I actually don't hate that call for Isaac Phelps. I think, oh, well, that's a bit of a lock-up. Isaac Phelps, who was saying, I was speaking to him a little bit yesterday, and it was yesterday, the real yesterday, on Sunday, about his grips. That's Callum Baxter getting past Megan Bruce, so that is for 6th position.
Wow.
Next, like, that is insane how fast he's flown his way up the order. Actually, well, that would be for 7th. Junkos now, he'll now be in 6th.
Callum Baxter's Sector 1 was 3 seconds faster than most of the other drivers. His sector 2, 4 seconds faster. His last lap, another 39.6, as everyone else is now lapping in the high 40s. So Callum Baxter could be on for a podium. I don't know if he's got enough time to catch our leader, but this is a great call from the Graham Brunton Racing team. I don't know whose decision it was. Maybe it was Max Maserati, our co-host, or maybe it was the team, or maybe it was Callum himself.
Don't give him any credit. No, like I say, a lot of the time, I was talking this, like I said, with Isaac Phelps, a lot of the time, the teams will be ready in the pit lane in these conditions. They're ready for the stop, and it's the driver's call. Because there's no radio, the team can't call them in. So so more likely it's Callum Baxter being out there being like, do you know what? Let's give this a go. I'm sure he might have been told on the board or whatever, and he's coming. Either way, this is Alex O'Grady, the number 3 car, 15th position at the moment, behind Dean Areen. He's got Jason Pribble with some front wing damage going around the outside. You've got Luca Magnussen, who was scheduled to start this one from the reverse grid pole behind. Jason Pribble in the 59 making his way the long way around. Alex O'Grady, who's had 2 podiums this weekend. Big slide coming in from Pribble, and they're going side by side through the British chicane. Don't see that too much, as Alex O'Grady leads on him on the exit. O'Grady straight around the outside. This is fantastic. Proper touring car racing, basically.
This is excellent racing, side by side through the British chicane. Nearly, in fact, there may have been a small amount of rubbing, but they've all gone through, and Magnussen has driven over the back of O'Grady's car. He's lost his front wing. There'll almost certainly be damage on O'Grady's car as well. We'll keep an eye on that, but that was such good racing. I jinxed it, Lewis. I said great racing, side by side, and then there was contact. But it looks like everyone apart from Magnussen's come off fairly unscathed, but we're watching an absolutely thrilling, cinematic, worthy race here from GB4.
So that lap time was 10 seconds faster than your race leader, the 38.8 coming in from Callum Baxter, and he has closed down massively. He's 25 seconds back. He can win this race. He is going to win this race. Yeah. Callum Baxter can absolutely win this race. He's about to fly past now. This is the battle for 3rd position. Callum Baxter in the 45 on the right-hand side is about to make his move on Dan Ginchard. Epic drive of epic drives as he works his way up onto the podium.
Wow, you could see visually how much more grip Baxter had than Ginchard through Island Corner there. He's gapped him, but yes, Lewis, you're absolutely right. There's a chance that Baxter could do this. He needs a perfect end to the race as we cut to our race leader, Hallman. Hallman was 22 seconds ahead of Baxter at the start of this race. 25 seconds. We've still got 3 laps remaining, and Baxter's about 10 seconds a lap faster.
Ladies and gentlemen, one thing that you don't realise sat at home is that Piers Prior is going to have to go down there to interview our top 3, and will have absolutely no idea what order they're going to be in. Let's take a look at this. So you can see at the bottom of your screen how much faster Baxter has got per lap. So it's 46.0, 42.1, 38.8, and then the sudden decline of pace from Hallman. 45.7, 47.5, 48.0. It is getting harder and harder for those on the wets to keep any pace in it. We have got, this might be the last lap of the race actually, with the time, with how much slower Hallman's going, this will be the last lap.
It's going to be touch and go. I better go. Lewis, I look forward to seeing who comes home in first.
What a fascinating race it has been around Oulton Park. This could be the last lap. It's all because of those wet tyre runners getting slower and slower. And so Baxter, who had seemingly all the time in the world to catch our race leader, might have it slip through his fingers. He's got 16 seconds to catch. On the last lap, he was less than 10 seconds faster. It might not quite happen for him. He might just grab 2nd place. Maybe a podium will do. It has been an epic drive from him. This driver, though, is leaving nothing on the table. Although, to be fair, he might want to go a little bit slower just to make sure that this is the last lap of the race. It's kind of one of those tricky ones. If the faster he goes, the more likely he is with one more lap left. There's Mayor D and Areen with some front wing damage on the right-hand side in the number 44, the white and blue Graham Brunton racing car. So there is some front wing damage for him. Meanwhile, here is Enzo Hallman. You've got the 35 there of Isaac Phelps closing in to unlap himself. He's currently in 23rd position as Isaac Phelps, and there's absolutely nothing to do with this for Enzo Hallman. We'll like to get through, though, just in case there's any last lap dramas. There's 30 seconds left to go. This is going to be very close with to whether this is the last lap of the race. Once again, an extremely fast first sector from Baxter. He was 2.5 seconds faster in the first sector than this driver here, Enzo Hallman. As they work their way through Druids and up towards Lodge. It's been a really good weekend for Enzo Hallman. There was a podium in the opening race of the weekend. It was 15th in the previous one. And as he heads through the final corner and up towards the line, with the timer hitting 0, it is 7 winners from 9 races. Enzo Hallman with an epic drive, starting from right the way down the grid, but with a clean air ahead of him. He was able to work his way back through on Thomas Ingram Hill. And it's Holman that takes victory with a very narrow margin across the line. Didn't even quite check on how close that was. By 1/10, Callum Baxter is denied second place. It is a 1-2 for Douglas here at Oulton Park in what has been an absolute epic. What a crazy race. What a fun one. I mean, honestly, I say, GB4 delivers every time we go racing around here. And Enzo Holman and the Douglas Motorsports camp gambled before the race started, as the rain was quite light. And the gamble has paid off. What a race. I mean, honestly, completely crazy. If that race had gone one lap longer, and let me tell you, Enzo Holman crossed the line 16 minutes, 1 second, 0.137. If he was 1 second faster, he would have lost that race, because it would have gone for one more lap and he would almost certainly have been passed by Callum Baxter. That's just sometimes how it is in motorsport, and sometimes managing that gap is almost impossible when you're in the car. You've got no communication or very little. You have to just drive the car, wheel it around, and did absolutely brilliantly there for a first victory. But another podium. Obviously, again, started out the weekend with a podium. Got to say as well, the big winner in that race, above all else, is Dan Ginchard. Fourth place in that race will pull out an almighty championship lead heading into the next round of the season at Snetterton. Obviously, we've got a long time to wait until that one. Obviously, early or towards the middle of July before we'll see GB4 racing around once again. But Ginchard will be very comfortable heading into that. The driver who sits second in the championship, which is Alex Catoulis, well, he finished, where did he finish? He finished down 21st position, won't score any points. Isaac Phelps, 22nd position, won't score any points. Ari Bansal, 10th position, will score some, but not many. And again, one thing that I will say when it comes to the points of this, and it is an important thing to note, is there is a track limits penalty for car 17. That, of course, is Stefan Bostangiev. He's in 15th position, so he'll get a 5-second post-race time penalty for exceeding track limits. One thing that I'll say, though, when it comes to the points, obviously you get the points at 20 points for a race victory, and then you get a certain amount of points for positions gained. I don't know how the positions gained points are going to work. So that is completely up in the air. That will come from race control, because I'm not sure. Because in that case, Enzo Holman will score 32 points here, because he'll score 20 points for victory, and then, or it'll be 11. No, it'll be 12. Then it'll be 12 points, which is the maximum amount of points you can score from positions gained in this championship, as that's the reverse grid number. So very, very confusing. So if you want to know what the standings are like, I would head over to the GB-4.net website after the race. You'll get points on there, you'll get updates on there as to how it's going to unfold, because I got absolutely no idea. All I know is that it was a cracking race. Great fun and very, very exciting. I was going to say, he didn't look too that pleased until just now. Obviously, he's caught the eye of family and the team. Of course, straight over to, Mark Werrell. That's not what he wants. Honestly, it was a great drive. But let's hand down to Piers to catch up with our top three. It was very exciting.
Enzo, wow, what a race. It was chaos, but you were the one that won that race. You had better pace than anyone on the wets. How does it feel?
No, just big gamble, and it worked. We saw everybody going on slicks, and we felt like we have nothing to lose. We had a bad qualifying with a puncture, so we felt like all or nothing and took the wets on, and yeah, absolutely right, and we won.
One thing that you won't know, though, is if you have a look at this car, Callum Baxter, on slick tyres there, he pitted after the start, put slicks on, and you came over the line with 1.1 seconds with a checkered flag. If you would have gone 1.1 seconds slower over the whole race, he would have caught you and taken the win. So your pace won that race.
Yeah, I didn't know that. So nice. I was worried about the rear tyres because they had a lot of wear, but yeah, I'm so happy to get a win. It's amazing.
And a double podium this weekend as well out of the 3 races.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Amazing, congratulations. I'll get you go and celebrate with the team, and we'll head this way to chat to second place driver Dayton Coulthard, who's celebrating with the Douglas Motorsport team. A double podium for them. They all stayed on wets. They went wets early. Dayton, big smile there I can see. Wets Was the right choice early on? Just.
Yeah, just about. I mean, it was close at the end. I thought Phelps was overtaking me. I didn't realise he was a lap behind, so it was a bit scary at the end, but no, it was good.
Very good indeed. Second place, double podium for the team. Let's just wonder this way. You won't know, though, that your teammate, his rapid pace on the wets is what saved you from second place, because if he'd have gone 1.1 seconds slower over the whole race, you'd have done another lap, and Callum Baxter would have got you on slicks.
Well, thank you very much, Enzo. Appreciate it.
No, you did very well. Great job from the team, and we'll grab a word with our driver that we were following throughout that race, Callum Baxter for Graham Brunton Racing. An absolutely inspired call to go on to wets. What a drive.
Yeah, thanks. I can't thank the team enough for that decision to put me on the dries.
It was a team decision, was it?
Yeah, oh yeah.
And you drove an excellent second half of the race. You were carving through people like they were standing still. That must have felt pretty good.
It felt pretty good, but I'm thinking back to a couple of times I got boxed in, and maybe if that didn't happen, could have gone for the win, but really happy with third.
Yeah, it was so close though. If Enzo was a little bit slower, he would have done one more lap in the race. So if he'd have done one more lap, you would have got him almost certainly, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm disappointed they shortened it to 16 minutes for this one.
Absolutely, but hey, you know, if you're disappointed with third place, it's been a good race, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, great job from yourself. Really good drive on what was tricky conditions. I'll let Lewis run you through what was an even more chaotic round 9 of the GB4 Championship, partnered by the BRDC.
Highlights from round 9 of the GB4 Championship, partnered by the BRDC, and with 5 cars starting on the grid and 19 from the pit lane courtesy of late changes on tyres. They were racing down to the first corner with Thomas Ingram Hill taking over the race lead. Once they'd got into the first corner, the 19 cars were released from pit lane, ready to go and catch those 5 that had already been able to build up some heat in the tyres courtesy of the formation laps. Enzo Holman, though, was trying to retake over what was effectively the race lead from pole position as he goes straight around the outside at Druids. They'd still be side by side though as they head into the final corner at Lodge, and Enzo Holman desperate to try and get ahead of the number 8 Fortec car of Thomas Ingram Hill. This would open the door for Dayton Coulthard to come through to make it a Douglas 1-2, and that was all Enzo Holman needed to try and check out into the distance. Behind though, it was chaos. Jason Pribble off the road as the race start was underway. You'd be passed all the way down to about 12th or 13th position. Meanwhile, everyone else was trying to find their way through. Luca Magnussen off the road and into the gravel whilst trying to go around the outside of Alex Catoulis as they were battling outside of the top 10. Dan Ginchard, though, had a great drive, was working his way up. This was the move for 3rd position as he'd fly around the outside. Later in the race, though, a gamble going on to slick tyres from Callum Baxter. He was flying past Ginchard and was flying up to the race lead. It wouldn't be enough, though. The race slightly too short for Callum Baxter as across the line comes the number 7 after an epic drive. There was still plenty of drama though behind as we'd see this gap come down to just a 1/10 of a second with Holman crossing the line as victory. This was the gap for second place. Coulthard in second and Baxter just about in 3rd spot, but it was Holman victorious. What an insane race. Absolutely crazy, and of course fascinating to have seen that one unfold the way it did. Enzo Holman, though, is the one who is victorious. It is a Douglas 1-2, like we had a Hillspeed 1-2 earlier on in the weekend. Of course, that one was changed slightly post-race after disqualification. This one, I have absolutely no idea what's going to go with. 6.3 seconds back then was Coulthard, and you had to wait a whole 1/10 of a second to find Baxter across the line side by side with him. Dan Ginchard, though, probably the biggest winner of all when it comes to the championship. 4th place for him in the race, just ahead of Jack Taylor. Thomas Ingram Hill would drop back then into 6th spot, still for a decent result for the Fortec team, with Hilton, Junkos, Megan Bruce inside the top 10 once again. So a great drive from the KMR Sport driver, and Ari Bansal back there as well. You've got Holly Marl in 11th position with McLean in 12th. Bostangiev with a penalty will drop down the order ever so slightly, courtesy of an instant. He's 13th position with Berg in 14th. O'Grady in 15th. Dean Areen in 16th with Pribble, Wilson, Dobson and McDaniel, the top 20. One interesting feature of the race, though, despite all the drama, Catoulis, Phelps, Magnussen, all finishing still on the lead lap. The only retirement happened before the start of the race, which was Watkins. Championship points, by the way, as much as it's completely irrelevant, it would be Dan Ginchard leading by 36 points. I'm not sure that will actually be the gap, though. So I'm going to hold fire on that one being the case. We'll discuss that, and again, you can check that one out on social media, of course, Instagram, Twitter, and of course, just by checking out the GB4 website to see exactly what is going on and how this race is going to play out when it comes to the points. The things we do know, though, is we will be welcoming out onto the podium Callum Baxter, of course, for a first podium of 2025. It's been a tough start to the season for Callum Baxter. He's had some really good pace, but has not really been able to capitalise on it too well. And of course, for a driver who had 2 podiums back in 2024, he's maybe looking for something a little bit better when it comes to the start of the season. For the Douglas Motorsports team, though, it will be a 1-2 for them. It will be on to second position for Dayton Coulthard, who on these points would move up into the top 10 of the championship. And for a third time this season, and of course a second time this round, it's Enzo Hallman on to the top step of the podium. Had a podium in the final race at Donington Park, had a podium in the opening race here at Oulton Park, and a podium here in the final race, and that one being a victory. Richard Randall, of course, they're ready to hand out the trophies. I don't think when they were all sat there in assembly, waiting for this race to really unfold, I don't think they could possibly have imagined that this was going to be the outcome, especially the driver there on the right of Callum Baxter, who started the race on the wets, or started the race on the slicks, came into the pit lane, then started the race properly on the wets, and then came into the pit lane to go back onto the slicks, and still find himself on the podium, and all of that occurred in 16 minutes of racing. That's why we love GB4, because it's absolutely crazy. And, of course, with no racing until July, you might as well start spraying the bubbly and get it all over the place, because why not? Why not celebrate properly when it's the final race of the weekend? You don't have to worry about getting absolutely soaked. You've got plenty of time to dry out the overalls. What a time it'll be, though, behind the scenes at Douglas, as, again, a double podium for them. Hilton also, the third driver for the Douglas Motorsports team, did finish in 7th spot. So for the entire team, a really, really solid race there. They'll score comfortably in the Teams Championship. Of course, teams-wise, it is still going to be elite, really pulling clear of everyone. But for Douglas Motorsports, that will certainly help them. The Sunoco fastest driver of the week, really, from that race? That's crazy. The Sunoco fastest driver of the weekend award is Callum Baxter for the laps he put in race 3 of the weekend. That surprised me so much, but that's just how all over the place the conditions have been this weekend. That the laps that he was setting to try and chase down the race lead were enough to grab him that award. The fastest lap in race across the weekend, they get the Sunoco fastest driver of the weekend award, and well deserved from Callum Baxter, because that was a brave drive in very, very, very difficult conditions to have navigated his way through. We'll head down though to Piers, who's still in Parc Fermé.
Wow, what a finale to this weekend at Oulton Park. Have we seen racing like that in the GB3 or GB4 Championship before? I don't know. Will we ever see racing like that again? I also don't know. That was absolutely chaotic, but a brilliant, brilliant finale to the weekend. Enzo Hallman earned that victory. If he wasn't as quick on the road as he was, then he would have had to do another lap, and that would have meant that this man here, Callum Baxter, would have taken the win on those slick tyres. But an inspired call by the Douglas Motorsport team to go on those wets first up allowed them to take the victory. I'm hoping to grab a word with team manager Wayne Douglas, and I've spotted him. Can we? I might run and chase Wayne if I can. Do you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to run and chase Wayne. He doesn't. Wayne? Let's grab a quick word on the telly. We can grab a word with Wayne Douglas. I've interrupted him. Wayne, I know you don't like chatting on the TV. However, with a double podium like that and a race win after an inspired team decision, it would be wrong of us not to get you.
Yeah.
Must feel pretty good.
Yeah, it was pretty good. The lads had decided. Enzo's father actually was pushing to keep it on wets, and we knew with a weather radar saying it was going to rain at some stage, so we thought we'd take the chance. And then Luke was unlucky because he ended up on the grid on slicks. He probably would have won it, to be honest, if he'd got to start on slicks, but then he panicked with everyone else coming in, and we had to wheel him back off, and he ended up the back of the queue. But he came up to 6th, which was brilliant. But for Enzo, never been here to Thursday, couldn't find his way here. And Dayton, obviously, David will be chuffed. He's hopefully in Monaco having a beer.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And a word on the team, because it was a team decision altogether to go. They gave you the results in the end.
Yeah, we were lucky because Enzo in the first race had finished 3rd, so we had a good idea for pressures, tyres and stuff like that. So yeah, we were pretty lucky that we knew what exactly to do, and it was quite easy, because I think they were like 3 seconds a lap quicker than the other wet runners, which is like sort of unheard of, you know.
His pace is what won him the race, Enzo Hallman. If he was any slower, if he was a second slower over the whole race,
yeah, he'd have made another lap.
Exactly.
And then Graham's lad would have got him, you know. But That's what it is, small margins.
Great racing, absolute vintage GB4 racing.
Exactly, good to be first win in the championship. We've had a year out and now we're back, so we've got a win. Third in the team championship, making our way up, and the young lads are all first year guys, so you know it's a bit we'll have to deal with rookie issues, but they're gradually getting the grips with it, and hopefully by the end of the year we'll be at the front all the time.
More race wins this year then?
I would think so, yeah.
I would think so. Wayne Douglas there, team manager, owner and of Douglas Motorsport. I think that about is all we have time for now. As everyone else has. Oh no, we've got one more. Sorry, remiss of me to say, Graham, come on in. Graham Brunton, we spoke to you once already this weekend. A very successful weekend for you and the team. Callum, oh so close to a win there.
Yeah, it was all a bit strange. It was, I think, because Callum was last to come into the pits, virtually last to come into the pits, we had that bit of time to make a decision, so we went wets. Because we went wets, we were late into the line. Then it stopped raining, and we thought we've got nothing to lose here, so we just made the decision slicks.
Nothing to lose and everything to gain, and if it was one more lap, if Enzo was 1 second slower, that would have been it.
Actually, I take the rap for that because I dropped it on the jack, which lost us 2 seconds. So I'll take that.
Hey, it's still a podium's a great result, and it looks like everything in the team is working towards the front. It looks like there's a good team atmosphere at the moment and a lot of momentum building.
Yeah, we've got a tiny little team, 3 full-time employees back at Knockhill, but we have got a really, really good team. Everyone kind of striving for the same goal, so everyone's happy.
Amazing. Great to hear from you. Great to see your team doing so well. And we'll see you back next time out, which is going to be Snetterton, 12th and 13th of July. That's the next time you can catch GB4 racing action. I'm sure the teams will be hoping for less stress than they have had this weekend. And here is the schedule. So Saturday, 12th of July. Around 11 and 12 on July 13th, my birthday. So good of them to put it on there. Join us then for the final race, or for some more racing in GB4 action. Hopefully in the sunny sunshine of Snetterton in Norfolk. It's been an amazing weekend of racing so far. Thank you so much for joining us. We've really enjoyed having your company. Thanks to all the drivers, the marshals, and as always, everyone behind the scenes who makes the racing happen. We've very much enjoyed this. We're here and it's raining Oulton Park. We'll see you soon in July in Snetterton for the next round of GB4.